I'm 77 years old, and before I say anything else, I need to tell you the truth without any sugarcoating. The average man who reaches 65 has, statistically, about 16 years left. When you're in your 50s, still running the race, 16 years sounds like an eternity. But I'm past that marker now, and I can tell you what those years actually look like. Most men will spend nearly half of that final chapter managing a slow decline, a diagnosis or a loss of independence that no retirement calculator ever warns you about. So here is the question I want to place in front of you today on the rich retiree. What are you actually building? Not saving, not preserving, building. For most of my life, I confused those two words. Understanding the difference is the single shift that changed my entire second act. It took me until I was 68 to realize that my financial life was capable of reaching heights I hadn't even dreamed of in my prime. Stay with me, because this is the conversation I desperately needed when I was 55, sitting at a desk, thinking I had it all figured out. I grew up believing in a simple, ironclad gospel. Work hard, save steadily, keep your head down, and at 65, the good years finally begin. I followed that script to the letter. I spent decades in specialized insurance consulting, building trust and protecting other people's futures. My wife and I lived a sensible life. We drove used cars and took modest vacations. Our financial advisor, Dennis, used to point at a chart of compound interest and say, "Robert, just keep feeding this. At 65, you'll be right here." He pointed to a number that looked safe, beautiful, and certain. I believed the chart. I believed retirement was a finish line where everything I wanted was waiting patiently on the other side. I worked until 66, one extra year just to maximize my Social Security. I was being smart. My retirement party was a Tuesday. There was cake, handshakes, and a speech about my contributions. I drove home alone on a highway I'd traveled 8,000 times, walked into a silent house, and sat at the kitchen table. In that silence, I felt a low, quiet dread. I had arrived, but I had absolutely no idea what came next. The first year had its beauty. We finally went to Italy, but years of ignoring a bad knee, because I didn't have time during my career, caught up to me. By the second day in Positano, I was limping. We came home early. Then came the medical bills. Insurance only covered a portion of the surgery and rehab. It wasn't a catastrophe, but it was a leak in the boat I hadn't budgeted for. Then came my wife's health scare. She's well now, but that year of specialists and uncertainty showed me the true shape of my plan. One night, I sat with a legal pad and a calculator. I realized that my number, the one Dennis pointed to on the chart, was a floor, not a ceiling. It was enough as long as everything went perfectly, but the margin was thin. I had spent 40 years preparing to stop, but I hadn't spent a single day preparing to keep building in a new way. The turning point came from my brother-in-law, Frank. At 64, a firm offered him a consulting gig for just 2 days a week. He told me, "Robert, they aren't paying for my time anymore. They're paying for my 30 years of experience, and my 30 years are worth more today than they ever were." That sentence changed everything. I started making calls. I didn't reach out to former clients as a salesman, but as an advisor. I offered to review their risk structures based on 35 years of seeing exactly where things go wrong. Within a year, I had a consulting practice working 12 hours a week from coffee shops or while traveling. This was new money. It was surplus income on top of the floor I'd already built. Because I didn't need it for the electric bill, I could invest it aggressively. But more importantly, I felt alive. The part of a human being that solves problems and creates value doesn't want to retire. It just wants better terms. The secret isn't a specific stock or a product. It's a shift in identity. You must stop seeing yourself as a preserver and start seeing yourself as a builder who uses different tools. The knowledge you've earned is a rare asset. Younger professionals and growing businesses are desperate for the senior judgment you possess. When you build a second layer of income based on expertise rather than hours, the game changes. You get a cushion for healthcare, a surplus for the good years, and a reason to stay sharp. My net worth crossed a threshold at age 72 that I never thought possible, all because I decided at 68 that my building phase wasn't over. Last spring we went back to Italy. No limp, no agenda, and no worry about the bill. I sat above the water and realized I had won, not against the market, but against the version of myself that almost gave up. I'm 77 now. Time is not theoretical. The moment you decide you're finished building, you are. But the moment you decide there is more to create, a path appears. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Ready is just a story we tell ourselves to avoid the first step. Start small. Start this week. 77 arrives faster than any summer you've ever lived through. If you want to learn how to make your second act more profitable and purposeful than your first, subscribe to The Rich Retiree. We're here to make sure you never stop building. Thanks for watching. The work continues.